Hi, I'm Stasi and I'm a fashion design student who's also very passionate about sustainability and recycling. So today I'm going to be showing you how to make a patchwork scrunchie. It's a very beginner friendly project, so even if you've never sewn before, don't be afraid of it because it only requires a tiny bit of material and minimal amounts of sewing skills. And the only thing you would need for it is a sewing machine, and even if you don't have it, there is a way of doing it by hand. It will just require a bit more time of yours, but still it's doable. The first thing you'll need to do is source the fabric. There are three ways you could approach it. First is going around your house and maybe looking through different drawers. Maybe someone of your family members tried to approach a project and they had leftover pieces of fabric, or you tried. So just look around your house, find tiny pieces of fabric. Second option will be to recycle clothing. Maybe you have something that you really like the print of, but you can't wear anymore because it has so many holes or stains that you can't fix. So this would be a great option as well. The third option would be buying fabric, but in that case, I would recommend you go to a local thrift store or an outlet store. I usually go to Uuskasutuskeskus for a thrift store because they have a large variety of fabrics, and for an outlet store, I go to Kangajungal outlet. They have so many different pieces of fabrics, especially in this project. You're going to need very small sections, tiny squares or like rectangles, so you can go there and pick up a large variety of combinations, whichever you like, and I'm leaving both of those in the description down below. I would ask you not to buy new fabrics for the project. Regular fabric stores will usually sell you fabrics from 1 or half a meter if you're lucky, and that's too much for the project. And if you are not 100% sure if you want to try sewing in the future, there's just no point for you in going and buying that much fabric. So this is one of the reasons why I would advise you not to go there. Second reason is that it's a bit more expensive typically, and new fabrics cost more obviously. And third reason is because it's much less sustainable. It takes a lot of resources to grow the fabrics and a lot of time to manufacture them and transport them, so it will be better for the planet if you try to save tiny pieces of fabrics from going into landfills, and it will make me very happy. So try it if you can. I'm going to be using the first method myself and sewing the scrunchie out of leftover scraps of fabric. Those I've accumulated during the summer because I started my own bag line, and here it is. Here's the Instagram if you want to check it out, give it a follow. Everything that I make there is made out of recycled materials, so those scrunchies are like 2 or 3 times upcycled because I make the bags out of small pieces of fabric and they get smaller and smaller each time, so the scrunchies are like the last resort that I'm going to. So give it a follow if you're interested, and let's get on with the tutorial.
Here are all the materials you're going to need for this. And the most essential things here are obviously the fabrics that you picked out and an elastic. The elastic I chose was 5mm in width, and I only picked it because I had it lying around the house. If you want to pick anything different, it can be wider as well, but just remember that usually your hair ties are quite skinny, so if you were to pick anything different, I would suggest not going wider than 75mm or a centimeter. At this point, you can choose whatever textile combinations you like. Just make sure all of your little pieces are 10 centimeters tall. I laid out all of my pieces side by side and it turned out to be 50 centimeters. Because I have 5 pieces of fabric, they are going to make up for 5 seams in total. So usually my scrunchies would be 45 centimeters long when I haven't sewn them in a tube yet. And because I have 5 seams, I'm allowing myself 1 centimeter per each seam. So I'm adding extra 5 centimeters to my 45 centimeter scrunchie. So that's why I have 50 centimeter long piece at this point. Also, when I was laying my pieces out, I made sure that the first piece of fabric and the last one are different colors, because later we're going to sew them in a tube and I don't want the same kind of fabric to be touching. I began the sewing process by taking 2 first pieces of fabric and sew them right sides in with 1 centimeter seam allowance. Continue attaching your pieces in straight line and you should end up with something like this. By this point it will be about 47 centimeter long strip, and now we have to iron the seams flat. We're doing this so that your scrunchie doesn't bunch up in the places where you have the seams. Once everything is ironed, fold your scrunchie along the long side of it and start pinning. You want your seams to meet, so pay close attention to how you're pinning this. Also, try to pin your seam allowance together on both sides so that when you're sewing, it won't move underneath the foot of the sewing machine. Sew the whole thing with a straight stitch and do back stitches on the seams. Don't rush. It's better if you go slower, but all of your seams look flat in the end. Flip the whole piece inside out and insert a measuring tape inside it. I used an elastic that was 5mm wide and 16cm long. Pin one side of your elastic to the measuring tape against the direction you're going to be pulling it in, and the other side to the piece of fabric. Make sure the elastic is secure because you don't want to lose it while you're pulling it through the piece. You can also try a different method and attach a safety pin to one side of the elastic and pull it through this way. I just find it a bit tricky because the pin just gets stuck in all of the seam allowance that we have because of the patchwork inside of the scrunchie. Once you've pulled the elastic through, take out all of the pins and attach the two pieces of elastic to each other. I overlapped my elastic for about 2 centimeters. Because my elastic is so skinny, I used the tiniest zigzag stitch I had on my sewing machine, but if you're taking a larger one, it's going to be a bit easier. Just use a zigzag stitch that is appropriate for your elastic width. I didn't want to lose my elastic, so the first couple of stitches I did over the pin, and then I took the pin out and continued sewing. Because it was a bit tricky for me to do a back stitch on such a skinny elastic, I just raised the foot, leaving my needle inside the elastic, and turned the whole thing 180 degrees so that I could do a zigzag stitch again. In total, I did about 4 layers of zigzag stitch on this section of elastic. Last step will be to close the gap opening, and we're going to be doing it by hand. Pick one side of the scrunchie, fold its raw edges 1 centimeter in, and overlap the other side of the scrunchie. Pin them in place, but just make sure that you don't go through all the layers of fabric. You don't want to go through the back side and just make the whole scrunchie flat. I just picked the most basic stitch and tried to keep it as clean as possible because I knew it was going to be visible since I picked black and white contrasting fabrics. I used a thread folded in half, and when I finished sewing, I just cut it loose so that I had a long enough tail to tie the knot in the end.
So I hope everything went well and your scrunchie turned out just the way as you imagined it. If you post any photos, tag me in them because I'm going to be very happy to see how it turned out and that you followed my tutorial because I'm just in the beginning of my YouTube journey. Actually, about that, I only have 2 more videos to go before I start my university year, and if you have any suggestions for them, leave them in the comments down below. I already know that my next video is going to be not sewing related. It's going to have some textile element to it and art elements, so if you want to guess what that is, leave your guesses down below in the comments as well. Because I am going to be starting my vlogging year in September, I'm not sure how many tutorials I'm going to be filming, but still there is a chance that I'm going to be filming something similar to this as well. So maybe if you want something specific for me to show you how to make, this is the best time for you to give any suggestions. Subscribe if a degree collection from start to finish is something that you're interested in, because I'm going to be filming everything from how you research, how you make textiles, how you develop a print, and how you make mock-ups / toiles for the actual garment. And I'm not sure, maybe my tutor is going to allow me to film our sessions as well as to how she critiques us and what she expects in our collections. So this will be very useful for someone who plans to start fashion degree, or maybe is interested in starting their own collection at some point in the future. And I think it's going to be very interesting for me to look back on as well. This is primarily one of the reasons why I started the YouTube channel, to look back into what I've done, and this is very interesting for me to see. So I think I'm going to be filming a sketchbook tour, so the video after that I post is going to be a tour of my older sketchbooks from foundation in British High School of Art and Design Moscow. So if you're interested, subscribe. I would love for our family to grow, so join the family. Thank you for watching.